Pasadena and Hancock Park. That was what came about first. So how long have you been in the house?
I've been here about a year and a half.
Oh boy.
So, and it only took 2 months to renovate. That's partly due because it was featured on a show, and it was documented, the process. So that's not typical for a 2-month renovation.
Right.
I would say normally a renovation like this would take about 6 months. But that's another thing, is that I wanted to showcase the best green builders, the best materials to use, what not to use for sure.
You're a trailblazer. That's really cool. Now look, we're going to be showing you lots of pictures and how-tos. So please stay tuned to Aging in LA.
The Los Angeles Department of Water and Power wants to give you up to 7 free shade trees just for completing a workshop, either online or in your neighborhood. The Trees for a Green LA program offers LADWP residents over 40 different varieties of free shade trees. Trees benefit the environment, save energy, and add beauty. Get your trees by participating in an online workshop by logging on to ladwp.com/trees or call 1-800-GREEN-LA.
Before approaching an intersection. So that's why 2 wrong turns don't make a right turn. Now let's learn about tailgating.
Hey, that's how I got my ticket.
You got a ticket for tailgating? That's not good. That can be really annoying.
Doesn't get you there any faster.
It leaves you no distance to brake.
Which makes it easier to get into a crash.
And it also may increase your insurance premium. And I hate tailgaters. Tailgating causes crashes. Back off. Watch the road.
Welcome back to Aging in LA. We're visiting with Julie Solomon and this wonderful home up here in Elysian Heights. And your foundation, the Green Beacon Foundation. Give me the website again, so in just in case somebody missed it.
greenbeacon.org.
Okay, greenbeacon.org. You know what you're doing. Tell me about some of the special features that you're most proud of in this home.
Well, one of the main features I would like to show you right back here is these countertops, which is actually curbside recycled glass. That means beer bottles, any sort of recycled glass that we toss out actually gets chipped and remade into these beautiful countertops.
Wow.
So I call that the gem of the house. And then just simple things, really, Paul, like low-flow faucets. I put in a dual-flush toilet.
Now, explain dual-flush toilet, because that's kind of new to even our community. They're not aware that there are toilets now that have a dual function.
Well, there's also low-flow toilets or dual-flush toilets, but a typical American toilet uses between 3 to 5 gallons of water per flush.
Per flush, that's right.
Per flush. So if you have a dual flush toilet, the first one is a 0.5 gallon flush.
Right, and that's for urine. Right.
Right. The second one is obviously for number 1, number 2.
It's like raising kids again.
Yes.
Do you have to go number 1 or number 2?
If you go number 2, the flush is about a gallon. So
right. And that's really a dramatic savings.
it's a huge savings in water because,
yes.
as you know, in LA, we not only pay for the water coming into the home, we pay for it going out of the house.
Yes,
so
indeed.
it is a huge water savings, not only in the bill, but just in water conservation.
Okay, now when you were doing so much of the woodwork and restoring it, were you really conscious of the kind of chemicals that you were using when you stripped down the stuff?
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, there's an acronym in the business we call VOC, and so VOC stands for volatile organic compounds. Things like asbestos that we found in a lot of the paints in years ago.
Yes, and people talk about lead, which was in
which is
all
also
of our
present
paints,
in a lot of paints. Those are called volatile organic compounds. So the paints that are coming out on the market now are called no VOC or low VOC paints and finishes. So with the floor, it's a no VOC finish. It's a flat finish. It's matte. It's beautiful. It wears well. It's one of those products that's really a great invention of this whole green technology movement.
That's so amazing. Now, how about finding working people who do this work? Are they becoming ever more conscious of their environmental impact? I'm talking carpenters and painters, etc.
Slowly but surely, definitely, you can find some really wonderful people. And it's interesting because mostly they're on the west side, because Santa Monica, cities like that, have really become ecologically conscientious.
Right.
Where that's why I really wanted to do this on the east side, because the east siders, us over in Pasadena, Eagle Rock, Silver Lake, Echo Park, downtown,
Right.
don't really have such a huge movement that's happening on the west side. So I'm still in touch with a lot of west side contractors, builders, but people over here are starting to see that that is a wonderful business to break into, and they're starting to add more green building features to their licensing and with LEED and things like this.
Did you ever feel overwhelmed? I mean, was there a project just too big to contemplate, or did you just kind of do it a little bit here and a little bit there?
The overwhelming part, I think, was getting the raccoon, the raccoons out. And they actually lived right back here behind us in the roof. And that was kind of a daunting task because it costs a lot of money to get them out.
Sure.
And you have to hire a crew, and it took them 3 days. And it was actually featured, the whole renovation was featured on Planet Green on a show called Green of Eight.
Really? Great.
And so you'll see if you
The
happen
raccoon
to catch the
the
show.
raccoon project?
Yes,
Oh,
the
wow.
raccoons moved out on their own, thank goodness.
Okay.
They got their walking papers and they knew to leave. But the stuff they left behind was about 45 years worth of nesting.
Yes.
You can imagine.
Right, yes,
and
I
so
can.
on camera, I looked to the guy that's been in business for about 26 years, and I said, "What's the worst case of raccoon remediation you've ever seen?" He's like, "Oh, this is it, hands down."
Oh, boy.
And I turned to the camera and I say, "Number one." Like, that's how I'm known now, as the #1 raccoon remediation.
I want to show this brochure. This is a lovely brochure of the Green Beacon Foundation. And take a peek at that picture. This was the structure. Now, in 1914, this was down on Wilshire Boulevard?
This is actually the structure as it's built right here as we're sitting
Right
in it.
here? Mm-hmm. Well, this
Isn't that
is
amazing?
unbelievable. Because house doesn't look like this anymore, believe me. But this is wonderful. Now, do neighbors stop in and seek advice or come
Oh,
to
sure.
take
The
workshops?
neighbors stop in to see how it looks now, because everybody knew the previous owners. Just they were beloved, like I said, cat rescuers in the
Right.
neighborhood. But apparently, the 26 cats they had living here, combined with all of their stuff, made this house not very airy, I've heard. Like, there's a lot more space, and people
Yeah.
come in just out of curiosity to see
Right.
what I've done with the place, and they're thrilled.
Well, and it's a teaching experience, too. You have a chance then to say, this is how we handled this. And tell me about the furniture adventures. That I love that story
yes.
about
Well-
going off on the hunt for
Yes,
good furniture.
Exactly, and it really was a hunt, because after I remediated the mold and the raccoons, it kind of, I'm a very thrifty person anyway. I love furniture from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, and it was so well built back then. And so I went on a treasure hunt to find furniture that kind of fit the vision. Like in here, I sort of wanted a 60s Polynesian feel.
Right.
And the pictures on the wall are actually hand-painted reproductions of Polynesian menus.
Landscapes?
They're
Oh,
menus from
menus.
cruise lines.
Oh, how fun.
And so they're hand-painted
How
watercolors.
exotic.
Oh, yeah. So those were from the 40s and 50s. Then the furniture I found at various different stores. But I really want to tell people, too, like, go out and find the furniture in thrift stores, in various places,
Right.
antique shops, because they don't build it like they used to.
No, in fact, some of the modern furniture puts a terrible burden on our environment.
It does. And not only that, but a lot of the adhesives they use have a lot of VOCs in them, and it's a process called off-gassing. So those volatile organic compounds start to seep out of the furniture. You're inhaling them, and then your home becomes, in effect, toxic.
Right, and we have to remember that there is, I mean, it's bad enough living in Los Angeles with our air quality and the quality of our water, but there's a concept called the cumulative load. It's not that this particular instance is so bad for you, but when you start piling them up one on top of the other, and our seniors are especially vulnerable to environmental influences.
So that's something, buy old furniture. It's already off gas.
Right.
It's gotten rid of any sort of volatile organic compounds. It's beautiful. It's easily, restored.
Yes.
And it's cheap. It's really inexpensive, so you can outfit a home.
My first office, this was back in Westport, Connecticut, I managed to furnish my entire office for $5.
Kidding.
No, Salvation Army all the way. And then it became such a part of me. It's like, I don't have to do more than this. This is a perfectly serviceable desk.
Exactly. So it's also keeping a lot of this furniture out of landfills. It's got such a huge savings all the way around.
Regular viewers will remember this expression that my grandfather first taught to me, and I forgot, because I'm an LA boy, you know, and you're done with something, you throw it away. And it's this: use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without. And you're like a living example of how, look, it makes economic sense. A lot of people are on budgets and have forgotten that it's okay to reuse something.
Absolutely. Buying secondhand is not a stigma that it used to be, that, oh, you don't have enough money. It's wow, I bought this beautiful old growth mahogany table for $150. It's worth $3,000 in an antique store.
We've had a guest on this show who has a very upscale secondhand clothing store over on the west side, and there were dramatic savings there. Now, you have workshops here as well, right?
Yes.
So your actual hands-on experience.
And I have a tour that takes place on the first Saturday of each month.
Right.
And we go through the house, and I talk about all the different things that I did to renovate. Then we also talk about, at the end, products and processes that you can see an immediate savings from your ecological footprint, also your bill. Things like putting a power strip, you know, the power strips that you can plug everything into. There's something called phantom load that a lot of people don't know about. It sounds so spooky.
What is it?
Phantom load is when you have appliances plugged in that you leave plugged in all the time. We mindlessly do it. That zaps a lot of electricity and energy that otherwise, if you just take it out of the wall, you're not being charged for. So if you put it on a strip, if you can plug all those in and just flip it off when you're at the end of your day, you're going to see about a $250 savings per year just doing that alone. And we have the incandescent light bulbs. If you replace all of the light bulbs in your home with these CFLs, you can save about $50 a year, which doesn't sound like much, but it's saving on the carbon footprint as well that you're putting out. And
for people on fixed incomes, this can make the difference.
Definitely.
Being able to get the medications that they need or to supplement their diet. Well, good on you for doing all this work, Julie. This is just, it's fun to see a real life person in a real live setting that's accessible to people. You've done so much of the hard work because you tackled this. But did you know you were going to be this person when you started out?
No. Definitely not. And I'm really pleased to be a part of this community, to help my neighbors, to really make an impact in Los Angeles, because I love Los Angeles.
Yeah, me too. We're running short of time. Remember this now, Green Beacon Foundation. Take a look. If you're contemplating a project, maybe this is the way to go. Not maybe, it is the way to go. Thank you so much for watching Aging in LA. And Julie, thank you for opening your home to us.
Thank you, Paul. It's been a pleasure.
It's a treat. And here are Julie's 5 ways to go green and save green. A simple $5 investment with a power on and off switch can make a big difference. You can save over $256 a year on your electric bill and will be amazed at how easily it becomes part of your routine. The trick is to remember to turn it off when you aren't using it. Replace 3 incandescent bulbs with fluorescent bulbs in your home and save $60 a year in energy costs. During the winter, the Department of Energy recommends keeping your thermostat set at 68 degrees or lower when you are at home and 60 degrees while you are gone. In the summer, set your thermostat to 78 degrees or higher while you are home and 85 degrees when you're away. This will cut your energy bill down by as much as 20%. Do 2 loads of your laundry per week in cold or warm water instead of hot. Hang out stuff to dry if you can, and you'll reduce the energy used by 50%. The trick is to use liquid detergent, not too much, mind you, and pre-treat stains. Installing a whole house or ceiling fan improves interior comfort by circulating cold and warm air and dramatically reduces the need for air conditioning at 1/10 the price.
State,
Mike Balboa,
Cornetta, Studio C,
Eagle Rock,
Silver Lake,
Mount Washington,
Nova Park,
Koreatown,
Sherman Oaks, Hollywood, San Pedro.
You know, the 7th Council District is known for quite a few things, but we are very proud to now be known to have the National Silver Glove Champion in the 14 and 15-year-old category, 95-pound weight class, and that is Trinidad Emilio Sanchez, the National Silver Glove Champion in boxing.
My name is Trinidad Emilio Sanchez, and I'm from Pacoima, California. I started boxing when I was 12 years old. Oscar De La Hoya inspired me because he won the U.S. Olympics. My goal of boxing is to enter the 2012 Olympics, and then after that, go pro.
We're in a full-team LPD jet tutor program. This is one of the facilities from El Valle, San Fernando. Jeopardy gets kids from the court, and we just help them out, stay out of trouble. So we check those kids from the street, for the bad activities, and we put in the positive, positive activities. I see a lot of kids that could be something, and they just need the opportunity, and that's why I'm here to assist the coach and, give the kids a good workout. Any kid who come right here and have the opportunity to do boxing. All these kids that you see right here, they are very serious. They learn, respect themselves, respect others. Well, they get respect and most of all, confidence for themselves. Their lowest thing go up, go up because they start to believe in themselves. His discipline, his respect, the respect that he's giving to me is wonderful. Hard worker and very disciplined, and he takes boxing seriously. So what do you think about either the gang's activities or whatever the negative? Oh no, you know what, I don't like it, and blah blah blah, so I prefer staying boxing and what is cool.
My name is Trinidad Emilio Sanchez, and I'm the face of LA.
You think it can't happen to someone like you? Are you crazy? It could happen to anyone.
No one can save your life, nor the life of someone you love.
Hey, it's free. It's painless and easy. Don't be scared. Just get tested.
Know for sure. Get an HIV test now.
LA City View Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
Good morning, Los Angeles, and welcome to the City Council meeting for Wednesday, July 28, 2010. We're here in the John Frau Council Chamber, room 340 of City Hall, where we meet every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. I want to thank those members of the public who are here with us in council chambers, as well as our viewers on Channel 35, which broadcasts each of these meetings through the city's cable system live and rebroadcasts on that same day in the evening, these meetings. For your convenience, we can also be watched live in our remote council chambers in Van Nuys and San Pedro. You can also give public comment and testimony from those locations if that's closer to where you live. And you can also use the internet and go to our city's homepage at lacity.org and click on the links on the left, and we have live streaming webcasts of our council meetings. We archive all of our past council meetings there as well for your information. And finally, you can use your telephone if you're not close to a computer or a television. Call the following number, 213-621-CITY. That's 213-621-CITY, and you can listen in to the audio proceedings of any of our council meetings or our committee meetings as well. We are awaiting a quorum. I want to thank those council members who are here. It is 10:12, and council members Cardenas, Huizar, Koretz, Krikorian, Parks, Perry, Wesson, and Zine are here. Ms. Hahn is excused, Mr. Laban's excused, and Mr. Smith is excused. And so otherwise we are awaiting Mr. Alarcon and Mr. Rosendahl and Mr. Reyes who are late. If the three of them will please make their way down as soon as possible, Mr. Alarcon, Mr. Reyes, and Mr. Rosendahl. As soon as we have 10 members, that will constitute 2/3 of our body, and that is enough to make a quorum and to begin our meeting. In the meantime, we have our agendas available for everybody in the back. Those are made available 72 hours in advance or online. You can get them here in person, and 24 hours in advance for any of our special meeting items. If you'd like to be heard on any of the items that are before us, all items are noticed either for public hearings or there are items that public hearings have already been held. Fill out a speaker card in the back or in one of our remote locations, and if there hasn't been a public hearing, you will automatically be heard today. If a public hearing has already been held, it will require a council member to reopen that public hearing. But we also have a section, finally, of the meeting called General Public Comment, which is for items that are not on today's agenda, but nevertheless part of the city's business. And if you'd like to be heard for your 2 minutes, please fill out a speaker card and just put public comment in the upper right and hand that to one of our sergeants at arms. Again, I want to thank those council members who are here pursuant to council rules on time, and remind council members to please be conscious of the public's time while we await those that are late. The following three council members, we are still awaiting Mr. Alarcon, Mr. Reyes, and Mr. Rosendahl. As soon as we have one of them, we will begin the meeting. In the meantime, thank you for your patience while we wait them.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Hahn, Huizar, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 10 members present and a quorum is President.
All right, first order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
All right, Mr. Wesson moves and Mr. Reyes seconds. Without objection, those minutes will be approved. Next order of business.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
All right, Mr. Parks moves and Mr. Huizar seconds. Without objection, those will be approved as well. We can run through the agenda, please.
First item on the agenda, item 1 is a street lighting district notice for public hearing. Council should continue the hearing and present the ordinance on August 18th.
All right, without any objection, we'll continue that hearing, open the hearing, continue it till the 18th of August. Seeing no objection, so ordered. Next items.
Items 2 through 5 are confirmation of sidewalk assessments, and council should close the public hearings and confirm the assessments. However, there is a card on item 4.
Okay, we'll call 4 special for cards. That leaves us 2, 3, and 5. Any members wishing to call those special? If not, let's go ahead and please open the roll on confirming those assessments, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Items 6 through 14 are items for which public hearings have been held. Items 6 and 7 are commission reappointments. Do you wish to hold those?
Yes, please. Let's hold the commission appointments. And Ms. Perry? 13. 13 for Ms. Perry. I'll call 9 special. Mr. Parks?
Number 12 for Mr. Rosendahl.
Okay. Followed from Mr. Rosendahl via Mr. Parks. Let's hold 8, 10, and 11 until we have 12 members. We do expect 12 members a little bit later. With Mr. Rosendahl and Ms. Hahn will be coming in at 11, I've been informed. That leaves just 14. Anybody wishing to call 14 special? If not, let's prepare the roll on item 14 and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Thank you. That is approved. Next items, please.
Items 15 through 29 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration, and there is a request on item 26 to continue that to Tuesday, August 3rd.
Okay, if there's no objection to continue 26 to the 3rd, so ordered. Mr. Parks?
26, if we can get continued to the 3rd.
Yeah, we just said that. And do we have cards for the public on any of these?
Yes, Mr. President, there are cards on items 15, and do you wish to hold the ordinances as well?
Yeah, please.
16 through 19. Cards on 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 27, 28, and 29, which leaves just item 20.
Okay, anybody wishing to call 20 special? If not, let's prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
27.
Yeah, we have a special. 20 is approved. Next items, please.
10 ayes.
Okay. 20 is approved. Next items, please.
Items 30 and 31 are the closed session items. Do you wish to hold those on the desk?
Mr. Parks, do you have any recommendations?
31, we can do an open session if we could hold number 30 until we get a question answered about the repair.
Okay.
And to move 30.
There's no objection. Why don't we go to 31? And Mr. City Attorney?
If there are no questions or the need to go into closed session, I'll read what the recommendation is.
Okay, please.
The City Attorney's recommendation is for the city to vote in favor of the proposed plan by the debtor, RE/MAX, its disclosure statement and plan of liquidation of RE/MAX Marquee Partners. The plan proposes payment to priority creditors of about 66% of their allowed claims. Under this plan, the city would receive approximately $450,000.
Let's go ahead and open the roll on the settlement. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, that is approved. We'll now go to our public comment, and Siggy Cruz is our first speaker. After that is Dr. Clyde Williams. Good morning.
Morning, council members. I'm Ziggy Cruz. I live in Hollywood, and I rely on the website from the city of Los Angeles. Last weekend, you guys had a little boo-boo. It seemed like that the entire sites all related to the city of Los Angeles were shut down or server problems, and I can see there's not many people here that care about it, but those of us that do research online and utilize the city's websites, we were left in the dark, literally. So if you guys could look into it to maybe install a second server as a backup so that people that utilize your website as a tool to see what agenda item is up, because it was just mentioned it is online. Obviously, nobody could see on Sunday what's on Tuesday's agenda. So that's a problem I think the city of Los Angeles should look into. Obviously, Mr. Perry, Mr. Reyes and Mr. Parks seem to be, I appreciate Mr. Kakayan for taking an interest in this issue, as well as Councilmember Riza and Garcetti. So if you guys could just take a moment and look into the possibility to install a second server so that we won't have another glitch with these websites. The only one that was up was LADWP, but we know from council that that goes through you guys anyway, so what's the difference? Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we did look, there are multiple servers we should, that are mirrored already in multiple sites, so we're trying to figure out exactly what it was, but we'll Dr. Clyde Williams is our next speaker. John Walsh will follow after him. Good morning.
Dr. Clyde Williams for 115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, Northeast LA. I had to change my subject for the day. Now, ratepayers. I've noticed that ratepayers advocate for the DWP has been assigned to the Rules and Election. Why not have a joint hearing on it with Energy and Environment and Rules and Election? Because what is being proposed is basically, well, we don't really need a ratepayer. It'll just be one person on the board of Water and Power. This doesn't work. The CPUC has a separate ratepayers advocate group, and it's worked for almost 20 years quite well. However, We're in the city of Los Angeles, and let's have a committee be the ratepayer. Even Freeman said, oh, I'm the ratepayer's advocate. I try to keep the rates down. Well, it's more than just that, and it should be independent both from the board and from the DWP. So I would highly recommend that it be changed to include a joint hearing of energy and environment and rules and elections, rather than hiding it under rules and elections. Thank you.
Dr. Williams, I could just because I happen to chair that committee, I can let you know we're doing a series of public hearings throughout the city. The whole point is, and we'll do that also with energy, environment, other committees as well. We're going to take it to the geographical locations throughout the city, and there is no design yet. The whole purpose is to hear public input and make sure it gets designed right. But under our jurisdiction, anything on the ballot has to go to Rules and Elections Committee. So that's why it's been referred there. But we welcome you to join that process, and we'll make sure you know about those meetings.
We'll be there.
John Walsh is our next speaker. After that is Arnold Sachs.
John Walsh, blogging at Hollywood Highlands, HIGHLANDS.org. Email us at HollywoodDems, at gmail.com. Elbowgate. The mayor now, first he says it's a simple fracture, then he says it's a compound fracture. Now it's up to 8 pieces his elbow is in. First he said the cab driver was at fault, then he said the cab driver wasn't at fault, then he forgave the cab driver. And the press, except for the City News Service doing an excellent job, and so is the Daily News. Okay, we want to know how much is his medical bill. He was not on government job. He was not working. We hear that so far his medical bill is over $200,000. That's what everyone is saying. You don't see it in the press. They're not asking the question. We want to know. Now, was he speeding? I understand that when he fell, he was going over 40 miles an hour. He was going 40 miles an hour. Why wasn't a paramedic called? Why wasn't an ambulance called? It was because the City News Service has scanners, and they would have found out. There was a blackout of 24 hours. Let's put it this way. A prominent politician has a serious accident. There's a cover-up for 24 hours, and then the politician shows up. What am I talking about? 2 politicians, Teddy Kennedy of Chappaquiddick and Antonio Villaraigosa. Now, all we want to know, and incidentally, why didn't he go to the nearest hospital? The nearest emergency room was Cedars-Sinai, but then he would have been out of the city of Los Angeles, and he wanted this all covered up. Notice how they always stop me and harass me and correct me on issues. You see how quiet they are? As quiet as church mice. HollywoodHighlands.org. Email us the truth. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you very much, Mr. Walsh. Our next speaker is Arnold Sachs. After that will be Rick Nightingale and Van Nuys.
Thank you. Good morning. Arnold Sachs. As Dr. Williams mentioned, taking action on the ratepayer advocate, but as the motion that's posted on the bulletin board states, it is a redundant office. So why not put in some activity regarding this transfer program that DWP lives by versus having them pay their property tax? There was a couple items on your agenda where they had some property in Northern California, and I found out that they pay property taxes in other counties. So why not pay property tax in LA? Or at least get an idea how much money the public, because it is a public utility, the public utility should pay to the public. And by the way, what's the status of those DWP workers that were caught drinking and coming out of the strip bar? They were reassigned, but we haven't heard if they were terminated. Yet, have you read recently where the workers in Utah were terminated, state workers, for releasing a list of people that they claimed were illegal immigrants? Have you heard about the UCLA workers who were terminated for giving out documents on patient medical backgrounds? Terminated. Yet DWP workers caught on tape drinking and driving, coming out of a strip club, reassigned. And by the way, the downtown business district, thank you, Mr. President. And by the way, your standards for holding the meeting on time, When you had the budget hearings, you required everybody to be here at 10 o'clock. I still believe the city is facing a deficit. Why not the same requirements? But allowing us to speak on the downtown business district in its 20 years, the article regarding Mayor Bradley and his vision, I wonder what he would say about his vision for the red line and the blue line, now that the blue line is going to cost $2 billion more.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Rick Nightingale and Van Nuys is our last speaker for public comment. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, Rick Nightingale. I agree with you about the council being here on time. I think there should be a fine. I think a $100 fine when they're not here on time. Can you imagine if you came to your boss and you were late every day, 10 minutes, how long you would keep your job? Not very long, I don't think. I think you'd be terminated. But no, they don't have to do it. And then I'm really tired of hearing about the Arizona law, the SB 1070, that everybody is against Arizona. I'm sorry, over 60% of the people are for the law. The people you see picketing and so forth and so on, they're all Hispanics and so forth, and their families have been here, and they're a part of the anchor baby system and the whole 9 yards. And the news media gets on and says, oh, everybody's against it. Look at we're turning around. We have all these banners and all that, and everybody's honking for it, and they're all in favor of it. They're wrong. They're completely wrong, and you just don't want to face reality. And another thing is corruption. Everybody on the council that turns around and gets any money from a union, a contractor, or anything above that should not be on the bid list to do any work in the city of Los Angeles. Anytime that you take money from somebody like that, you owe them a favor. I don't care how you look at it, you owe them a favor. And it comes around. What comes around goes around. And that's the way it is. And if you turn around and take any money from them, you shouldn't let them bid on the job. I belong to the IBEW. I go to the meetings. I know what's going on. And you people are taking bribes. It's a bribe. It's just a flat-ass bribe, and you should be put in jail. But no, you people are exempt from all that thing. Same as, like I said, Bass, missing 41 meetings out of 63. Who's supposed to be voting for the people? Nobody. When you turn around and run for an office, you leave, go for something else, and then who's running your office? Nobody, except somebody second command. But you shouldn't be able to take any money from anybody, or they can't get on the bid list. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nightingale. Maria Carrillo is our next speaker, and after that is Silvia Torres.
So that's the heads up on that. Okay, no shenanigans.
Thank you. Buenos días.
Buenos días a todos ustedes y con mucho respeto para todos. Señor Gasseri, usted nos prometió que nos iba a tratar de ayudar por lo que pasó la otra vez.
Good morning, everybody. With all due respect, good morning to everyone else. Mr. Garcetti, last time you promised that you were going to help us with the situation that happened last time.
El punto es del día que nos golpearon los policías. Nosotros no estábamos haciendo nada malo.
We're talking about the situation that happened on the day when the police officers struck us. We were not doing anything wrong.
Todos mis compañeros estábamos en lo justo, pero tampoco no somos a nosotros animales para que nos trataron como nos trataron.
All of my friends and I were doing just what was fair and what was right, but we were not animals, so it wasn't correct the way we were treated.
Yo fui una de las que fui golpeada por uno de los policías cuando ellos venían entrando.
I was one of the persons who was struck by police officers when they were entering the chambers.
Porque inclusive yo soy una persona ya mayor, yo doy el respeto a todos ustedes y como tal yo también pido respeto para nosotros.
And as you can see, I'm an elderly woman. I respect all of you guys, and as such I also feel that I deserve the same respect.
Nosotros estamos pidiendo la ayuda de que no se nos subiera el porcentaje de dinero para la renta.
You know, we were here because we were asking for your assistance. We did not want the rent increase that was being proposed.
Ustedes saben bien que subió la luz, el gas, la comida, el pasaje. ¿Qué vamos a hacer?
You know very well that everything has gone up. Food, for energy, for transportation, and for rent. So what are we to do?
Muchas gracias. por sus palabras. Y yo tuve una reunión con la policía, con el capitán, y tendremos una reunión juntos también muy pronto. ¿Okay?
Thank you very much for your
Gracias.
comments. I had a meeting with the captain, and we will have a meeting pretty soon.
Sí,
Muchas gracias
pues,
para
ok.
todos.
Gracias por venir. Silvia Torres is our next speaker. And then Laura Cuadros.
Buenos días.
Good morning.
Buenos días a todos. Yo también, mi nombre es Silvia Torres.
Good morning, my name is Silvia Torres.
Y vengo también representando a Unión de Vecinos.
I'm here representing Unión de Vecinos.
Yo les voy a comentar rápidamente más mi situación, que creo que es la situación de muchas personas como yo.
I quickly would like to share my situation. I feel that my situation is very similar to a lot of other people who are in my position.
Yo el día 10 de julio recibí el papel que tengo que pagar $50, o sea, el 5% de renta para el 1 de agosto. ¿El 10 de julio? El 10 de julio.
On July 10th, I received a notice stating that I have to pay $50 extra, which is a 5% increase starting in
Para el 1 de agosto.
on August 1st.
Como muchos sabemos, no tenemos trabajo y las rentas están subiendo demasiado. Mi situación es esta, que mi esposo lo detuvieron por no tener licencia.
As many of you know, the rents are going up a lot, and a lot of us do not have work. Also, as far as me personally, my situation, my husband was stopped.
Lo encerraron, pero no le encontraron nada. Aún así me lo reportaron.
He was stopped by the police department. They detained him with real no cause at all, and then they reported him.
Yo estaba sola, quise tratar de vender algo, ropa, que creo que no le hago mal a nadie en ropa.
I was by myself. I was doing nothing wrong. What I tried to do instead to help myself was to sell clothing. I don't think I do anything wrong by trying to sell clothes.
Yarda en mi casa más que nada, y el mes pasado estuvo llegando la policía a decir que si no metíamos eso, nos iba a traer a la policía, nos iba a quitar el dinero incluso.
I was selling clothes in front of my house, and the police kept coming to the house telling us that we needed to get all that merchandise of clothing in the house, or else they were going to take our money and they were going to take our clothes that we were trying to sell.
Entonces, queremos saber qué podemos hacer, qué ayuda ustedes nos pueden dar. Necesitan ayudarnos porque no sabemos ya qué hacer nosotros.
So I would like to ask you, what can we do? What kind of assistance are you going to help us? We are asking for your help because we don't know what else to do.
Okay. Muchas gracias por sus palabras. Y continuaremos a asistirte. Laura Cuadros, and then Walter Bechtel.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Laura Cuadros, yo vengo de Unión de Vecinos.
Good morning, my name is Laura Cuadros and I'm here representing Unión de Vecinos.
Somos parte de la coalición La Vivienda es un Derecho Humano en la Ciudad de Los Ángeles.
We're part of the Coalition for Human Rights for Renters. For Housing and Human Rights.
Y los compañeros que hemos venido ahora y vamos a seguir viniendo, inquilinos, gente de bajos recursos de diferentes lugares de la ciudad de Los Ángeles.
We're here today, and as you can tell, we're renters and we're low-income renters. And we're coming today and we'll continue coming, not just us, but a lot of other people who are residents from the city of Los Angeles.
Para pedirle a ustedes que hagan algo para ayudar a los inquilinos.
We're here and we'll continue coming to ask you to do something to help the renters in the city of LA.
Ya las personas que estuvieron aquí hace un momento dijeron cuál es su situación, yo no tengo que repetirla.
The previous speakers, friends of mine, have already stated their position and situation, therefore I will not repeat it again.
Por eso los urgimos a que hagan algo para ayudar a miles de inquilinos que están por esta misma situación en toda la ciudad de Los Ángeles.
And this is the reason why we urge you to please do something and help thousands of renters who are in the same situation throughout the city of Los Angeles.
Y como dijo la señora María Carrillo, que fue una de las personas maltratadas por la policía,
and as the previous speaker stated that she was mistreated by the police,
queremos una disculpa pública de parte del concilio hacia los inquilinos que fueron maltratados y golpeados en el mes de mayo durante la audiencia para la moratoria.
What we're asking is for a public apology from the city council due to the treatment that happened and the hitting that occurred against the tenants that attended the May's meeting regarding the moratorium.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Walter Bechtel.
Good morning. I wanted to come back and say something about the candidate, the prospective candidate for governor, Jerry Brown. And this is pertinent because I have said something numerous times about entertainment people and theft of intellectual property in this state. I have complained all the way up to the state attorney general, and he's going down to the city of Bell, which is in our jurisdiction here, I believe, and he says he's going to try to see something done about all that stuff there. And for the record, I want to say, over the years, to the disappointment of many of us who elected him, and because of his association with people in the music industry, his former girlfriend, who was a singer during the 70s, has done absolutely nothing to see any justice done in the case that I'm on and anybody else who's associated with that. The only thing I got, and other people I'm sure got, was a form letter saying that we can't tell you how and if we're going to do anything about this at all. We'll only take priority cases based on how much money and everything is involved, which essentially means that they're not going to do anything. I just think, for the record, that the only time that he appears to want to do anything and has done anything for me and anybody like me is, or rather, the only time he ever does anything is if it gets into the media. And I don't think that that's healthy for the economy of our state, for somebody who only wants to do something if he can get himself a record on a television set. He did come in here about a year or so ago, and he said, help is coming. But nothing has happened at all, and we don't see anything going to from him. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, what is our next item? Yes, I do want Mr. Wesson to make the introduction.
If council wishes, they could take up item 4, which is called special for cards.
Let's take up item 4 while we locate Mr. Wesson. And Mr. Walsh, you have a speaker card here on item 4.
Don't want to waste a second of city council time, because time is money. That's why I run up here. You know, I lived in Westwood. The first time I came here was summer of 1966, 44 years ago. You could eat off the floor on Westwood Boulevard. It's a pigsty now, 46 years ago. And it is getting much worse. Now, as I said, I lived for 10 years. I did not live in L.A., but I lived at Hedrick Hall then, at UCLA. I'm telling you right now what's happening. You are allowing dumpster divers, I hope that's not a politically incorrect term, dumpster divers, people who are home-challenged, homeless, but incidentally, being a racist city, and this is the first time a month ago that I saw people with shopping carts throwing junk in Westwood Boulevard. I had never seen that for 46 years. The first time I saw people sleeping in the doorways on the far side of Wilshire Boulevard. What's happened? Of course, as I said, being racist, you're only allowing white homeless in there. There are old white guys in there. You know, the old white guys who are racist. So you're only allowing racist old white guys in there. I'm telling you right now, HollywoodHighlands.org is the only place you can find out what's going on in this city. And I don't see anybody here from the good white citizens councils in Westwood complaining until somebody gets knifed or shot the way it happened before. HollywoodHighlands.org. Email us at HollywoodDemsDems@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you. That closes the public hearing. Would you please open the roll on this item? Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Next item.
Madam President, the questions have been answered on item 30, the closed session item. So Mr. Parks would like to take that up now.
Yeah. I would just like to add for the record, the Department of Bureau of Engineering has been identified as the department that will fix the sidewalk issue, and that we can move this forward in open session.
All right, thank you very much, Mr.
And,
Parks.
Madam President, for the record, the recommendation for settlement is in the amount of $225,000 in the case of Paul Rajatar versus City.
Would you please open the roll on that item? Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Next item.
Madam President, do you wish to take up the commissioners at this point?
I'm waiting for the chairperson of HCED. As soon as he comes back in the room, we can do that. So let's go to the next item.
Next item is item 9, and that was called special by Councilmember Garcetti.
Okay, why don't I take the public speaker cards on item 9 first. That will be Ziggy Cruz, Lori Goldman, Nicole Shahanian, Mitch Menzer, P. Jennifer Christie, Christy McAvoy, James Hergenrather, and Arnold Sachs. Okay, Ziggy Cruz.
Good morning. I'm Ziggy Cruz, and I'm here today speaking on behalf of Robert Blue and the Citizens Coalition of Los Angeles, also known as CCLA. The members of the CCLA and the Hollywood community will be directly impacted by the development and operation of this project and by the existing extensive and significant zoning precedents established by it. With due respect, the CCLA opposes the currently proposed CBS Columbia Square project. It is your responsibility as a collective body as well as an individual decision maker to look out for the best interest of the city and the residents. Approving the CBS Columbia Square project only serves to enrich the current owners of the property by granting massive land use entitlements while severely impacting the surrounding residents and businesses with gridlock traffic, increased pollution, and literally overshadowing the delicate Selma LaBeck Historic District area. Also, why would anybody in their right mind approve an entitlement that allows a developer to wait between 15 and 25 years before they even start construction? Can you really predict the critical issues facing the next generation of Los Angeles in 15 years? I doubt that. Will there be enough water to support the project? What condition will the infrastructure be in 15 years from now? These are questions I encourage you to consider before automatically voting yes. Please keep in mind that long after you leave office, your children as well as ours will be burdened with the decision that you will make today. The only one who will benefit from an approval today will be another wealthy developer who will be bailed out by the taxpayers of Los Angeles. Thank you for your time.
Lori Goldman.
Good morning, members of the council. I'm Lori Goldman here representing Central Hollywood Neighborhood Council, of which I am a board member. Our neighborhood council unanimously supports this project. Although it is not within our boundaries, it borders our eastern boundary, and its effects will be felt in CHNC. We applaud area partners for their excellent community outreach. They made sure all voices were heard and listened to by the evidence that they downsized the original project and the preservation and rehabilitation of the CBS studios. We are also pleased that special attention has been placed on pedestrian activity throughout the project. On behalf of CHNC, we welcome the project to Hollywood.
Nicole Shahanian.
Good morning, Nicole Shahanian, Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of the Hollywood Chamber, which represents nearly 1,000 businesses in the greater Hollywood area, I'm here to express our strong support for the Columbia Square project. The project will provide Hollywood with an innovative mixed-use site that simultaneously preserves a historic property that has played such an important role in the history of Hollywood. The Chamber is particularly pleased with the opportunities for commercial office space that this project provides. As you may know, there is a real need for Class A office space in Hollywood. We've lost a lot of office space due to conversions to residential. In fact, there's not been a new office building erected in the last 30 years. If Hollywood is going to remain a vibrant commercial center with the ability to attract new businesses, office space is essential. The Hollywood Chamber strongly encourages your approval of this project.
Mitch Menzer.
Good morning, honorable council members. I'm Mitch Menzer, counsel to the developer of the project, Area Property Partners. This project will be a powerful catalyst for the continued revitalization of Hollywood. It's a transit-oriented development, brilliantly designed by Johnson Fain Architects, that is built on essential urban planning principles such as pedestrian orientation, activating street frontages, preserving the historic buildings, and connecting neighboring uses. Columbia Square is projected to generate $7.1 million in new tax revenue per year for the city and the CRA, and it'll generate 1,600 jobs during operation and 4,000 jobs during construction. As you've heard, AREA has worked extensively to reach a consensus with its residential neighbors and other important stakeholders, and it has the support of some very important organizations. Hollywood Studio District Neighborhood Council, the Central Hollywood Neighborhood Council, the Selma LaBag Neighborhood, the Hollywood Design Review Board, the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, the Hollywood Studio Bid, and the Hollywood Art Council all support the project. We're also particularly proud that Hollywood Heritage, the preeminent preservation organization in Hollywood, is satisfied with the treatment of the project's historic resources and is supporting the project. We're also very pleased to have an agreement with Unite Here Local 11 that will include the union as a key partner in the project's hotel. On that basis, we ask that you approve the entitlements requested and deny the appeals. Thank you.
P. Jennifer Christie.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Christie. I have lived, worked, and worshiped literally in the shadow of this project for over 20 years. We love this project. I'm here on behalf of the Hollywood Studio District Neighborhood Council and also the Canyon Carlton Neighborhood Association. The developers have done so much outreach. They have not only listened to us, but they've adopted things that we felt were important into this project. I ask you, the people who are against this project, where do they live? What's in it for them? I've lived there 20 years and have never even heard of the CCLA. I want to thank the developers for their outreach, and I'd like to ask the City Council to adopt this project. I think it'll be good not only for Hollywood, but for all of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Christy McAvoy.
Good morning, council members. I've been asked by Brian Curran, Vice President of Hollywood Heritage, to read the following statement. As Hollywood's premier preservation organization, Hollywood Heritage has worked since the beginning of this process for the preservation and rehabilitation of the former CBS studios at Columbia Square, particularly those buildings on the site designed in 1938 by master architect William Lescaz. After 2 years of hard work and negotiations with the applicant, area partners, and PPD Gower, and with the help and guidance of Council President Garcetti and his staff at Council District 13, we are satisfied and support the project's treatment of historic resources on the site, which will include the preservation and adaptive reuse of the majority of historic Columbia Square Studios Historic Cultural Monument 947. After our agreement with the applicants, it was our intention to withdraw the appeal that you see listed on your agenda. However, at the request of the applicant, we're asking City Council to deny our appeal in an effort to avoid further delays in this process and to allow the project to move forward to final approval. Thank you.
James Hergenrather. And Mr. Sachs is our final speaker.
Good morning. I represent an organization of over 300 people called the CBS Alumni Association. They are retired CBS employees, many of who started their career in radio at Columbia Square, and more than a couple of them who are still alive and well and were present on opening day in 1938 when the nation's very first facility just for the use of radio opened in Hollywood. I had the pleasure a few weeks ago of speaking to a gentleman named Norman Corwin, who just celebrated his 100th birthday. He's one of the premier producers of radio programs at the height of radio back in the 30s. One of the things Norman said to me about Columbia Square was it was the place for anybody who was anyone in broadcasting went to do a television or radio program. When Columbia Square opened, the very first thing that was said was from Columbia Square and KNX Radio, the voice of Hollywood. One of the concerns of many of the CBS Alumni Association members is that this place they called home for so long may disappear, and along with it, not just a physical reminder that Hollywood is still Hollywood, but that a voice of Hollywood goes away when it's silenced. And we find that This project, as it stands now, strikes a wonderful compromise between preserving one of the physical elements that says this is still Hollywood, along with the memories of some of the greatest entertainment that came from literally in the confines of Hollywood. And so when we found out that the preservation of the major parts of the original Columbia Square were going to be retained, we were more than pleased. We're not concerned that we save every single doorway, every single doorknob, every single wall. It's 6121 Sunset. It's Columbia Square. Whether it's Studios A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, and 4 that are saved, or just the facades and the major elements, that's what made us feel better. And so we're here to say that we do support this project as it stands. It's an ideal compromise between the old and the new.
Arnold Sachs?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Here's my concerns about this project. There's a vesting zone change. There's a conditional use change for alcohol beverages. There's a conditional use permit for live entertainment. There's a vesting conditional use to permit a motion picture studio. There's a vesting conditional use to permit a hotel. But there's no vesting use of billboards. And as we heard from Honest Jan Perry when AEG and Port Tim Lewicki was in front of us regarding the movie studio that was in the complex, those billboards were vested, but it's not listed in here. You have an attorney to prepare and present a final draft ordinance authorizing the execution of development agreement. There is nothing here regarding the Building and Safety Code, Building and Safety Department, and issuing of those permits. So when the city attorney, whatever paperwork he drafts, he should make mention that no billboard rights were vested in this issue, so that in 3 or 4 years when we come down the pike, and whoever represents, maybe Honest Jan Perry will move to Hollywood and represent there, come before us and says, I have a sheaf of papers here, and all these meetings were held, and blah, 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 but none of them include building and safety, and nothing is in here about billboards that the city isn't put on the hook, and looks like the public pays the bill again. And by the way, the gentleman mentioned $7.1 million for the city and CRA. That would probably be $7 million for the CRA and the .1 for the city. Thank you.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Thank you, everybody, for coming out and for your comments. I wanted to start, actually, with the comments made by our friend from the CBS Alumni Association, because Columbia Square is really synonymous with the golden age of Hollywood. And I was driving on Sunset Boulevard this past weekend. It was the 50th anniversary of the Walk of Fame, perhaps the greatest asset that we have in this city. And it was amazing. Just by saying we were going to open up Capitol Records and give tours, we had people snaked around the block, hundreds of people, to go see that piece of history. Louis Prima, Jr. was there with his sister, playing in a big band in front of the Montalban, formerly Doolittle Theater, as they unveiled a star for their father, with people who came from near and far to listen and who were dancing right there, literally on the sidewalk and in the streets. It was a moment in which you could feel that Hollywood not only of old was back, but a new expression of something that did balance and did figure out a way to move into the 21st century and to reignite a second golden age for the neighborhood of Hollywood, which the industry of Hollywood had long abandoned in many ways, except for some brave souls who had been there in the tough years. The coalition that you see here in support today, historic preservationists, the neighborhood advocates, the business community, these are not easy people, and the council member. None of us are easy people to please. And I say that in a very positive way. We never have 100% support, but this is a pretty amazing accomplishment when you look at the neighborhood council that is there, the neighborhood associations that live right there, the chambers of commerce and the business improvement district, the historic preservationists. we have come together with a developer who has listened and who has said, how do we recognize and preserve where Lucille Ball broadcast for years, where countless programs came out of for years, where we see that activity and that hub of Sunset Boulevard that is our main street of this area. That is something that we were able to achieve. The Hollywood Christmas Parade, too, thank you. All the folks that have... And, oh, Hollywood Canteen, I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses on. Looked like the Hollywood Christmas Parade, I saw the C. The Hollywood Canteen that was part of that history. I mean, we know that this is what makes LA great. Absolutely. And one of the things that I want to say to the community and to the developer is I think the excitement of this, and we can go through this, colleagues, very briefly. It's going to be 189 units for living condominiums, 11 townhomes, which will be live, work, and activate the streetscape, 442,000 square feet of office space. And I think there has been one new office building, Technicolor building, but there has been very little office buildings that have been built recently. And you look at Sunset, there's actually two smaller ones. They're not the size of this, but we have all these media clients who all the time are coming to brokers in Hollywood saying, we'd like to come to Hollywood, where is their space? And we haven't been able to have it. And yet, still there are headquarters of new businesses and old ones that are coming back to Hollywood because of that excitement. The restaurants, the retail, that will be a part of it. And it's markedly different from the original design, which I think many of us saw, and while it was a dynamic, interesting design, it didn't have the context of the community. It was too big. It didn't have all the details and the input from the historic preservation community, from the residential community, from people who need it for parking, etc., that it now has there. We heard from the neighborhood, we heard from preservationists, and we agree that it is now time to put jobs here in the community. This will be building jobs for our trades, of which have an unemployment rate of about 40 to 50% right now, but it'll also have permanent jobs, and the neutrality agreement with Unite HERE Local 11 to make sure that the hotel pays a living wage and people have health care, and that can be hired locally. This is the sort of thing I think Hollywood has always stood for. So just in conclusion, the thing that I wanted to say, and why I started with the alumni group, is I would love to see radio and production come back to right here. What better thing? And I talked to NPR, actually. I planted the seed in both KPCC and KCRW's head. I said, don't you guys need a Hollywood bureau? And wouldn't it be great if people walked by and they could see on the bottom in those old studios, new studios, because I'd love to have CBS back. I don't know if they're going to come back, though, and we'll try to get them back. But to have tenants in this space down there at that street level where people could walk through, and with all the schools now that train, there's going to be Emerson across the street, but we have dramatic academies, we have film academies, we have over 20,000 students in the Hollywood area learning to become the next generation of filmmakers, radio broadcasters, television broadcasters, to be able to see that laboratory right there. In the same way that the Jimmy Kimmel Show coming onto Hollywood Boulevard has that connection with Hollywood High School, which has produced stars and producers and writers over the years. That is the community that we stand for. That's what Hollywood's first golden age is about, and this project is going to help continue to usher in Hollywood's second golden age. I urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garcetti. Mr. Reyes.
And thank you to Mr. Reyes.
What I wanted to just rise and show support, and one of the subject matters that we did touch was the notion of housing and how it applies to the local communities. And after having that discussion with Councilman Garcetti, we wanted to promote language that allows for the local areas to benefit. So the creating a radius within the CRA, within District 13, will give us a chance to at least have housing within walking distance. And it's no secret I pushed very aggressively for housing on a development site, and I realize that at times that's difficult for all the different reasons that we hear, but I do believe in this project we are paying attention to the folks who come to the microphone almost every time we meet, and they ask, where are we going to live? Where's our housing? So I think some of the elements that are positive that addresses that is to invest in that priority. And I want to thank the developers for doing that, and Councilor Garcetti for making sure that we have the language in this document that reaffirms that, correct? So I want to just rise and support this effort. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Reyes. There are no further speakers in the queue, please.
shepherding this through, Plum, and we did coordinate on that, and the affordable housing piece of it, I think, is a wonderful part that I did neglect to mention, and Mr. Reyes, not only as planning and land use chair, but also as a great advocate for affordable housing, ensured that that was going to be a part of it too, so thank you, Mr. Reyes.
All right, would you please open the roll on this item? Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
All right, I'd like to take the commission appointments next.
Madam President, council now has 12 members. Do you wish to take up the ordinances real quick?
Yes.
And those are items 8, 10, 11, 16, 17, 18, and 19.
All right, there is one speaker card on 11 for Arnold Sachs.
Public hearing was satisfied on that item.
All right, so then we'll not reopen the public hearing. There's no speakers in the queue on these items. Please open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
All right, why don't we take the commission appointments up next?
And those are items 6 and 7, and those are the reappointments of Ms. Lucilla Hooper and Mr. Raymond Methoda to the Housing Authority of Los Angeles.
All right, Mr. Wesson, did you wish to make some opening remarks?
Yes, thank you, Madam President and members. Today we had a discussion with these two commissioners. Let me state that this is not a new appointment. They are seasoned veterans, and this is a reappointment. The experience that they bring to this commission is, without a doubt, I think will definitely serve the best interests of the city of Los Angeles. So I would like to ask the two appointees to come forward, and if there are any questions, they would definitely answer the questions. But again, they have already been grilled, and this is for a re-appointment. But I'm very impressed with both of them. So with that said, if there are questions, ask them. If not, let's definitely reappoint these two great public servants.
Mr. Weston, did you wish for them to...
I'm done.
Okay, does anyone wish to ask them questions? Mr. Koretz would like to ask them questions.
Actually, I don't have a question. I just have some comments that Ms. Hahn had asked me to make on behalf of Ms. Hooper, who she apologizes for not being here today, but wanted me to applaud you on her behalf for the great work that you've done in the Watts community as a longtime resident, as a founder of the Watts Gang Task Force, as a leader in community food banks, as someone who established the Housing Authority Youth Council and has done a terrific job of bringing the community together, and also for your terrific help with the LAPD Community Police Academy, since community policing is something that she cares very much about. So I wanted to express her support for you and mine as well, and I thank you for being willing to take on this position a second time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, well then let's open the roll on these two commissioners. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
Madam President, on item 23, there has been a request by the council office to continue that 1 week to August 4th.
All right, that'll be without objection.
Next item called special was item 12, and that was called special for Councilmember Rosendahl.
Mr. Rosendahl, item 12. All right.
Once again, colleagues, and I know this seems to be more of a symbolic protest than anything else, and Mr. Krikorian and I have been voting strong on this. You know, the Supreme Court might be the Supreme Court of the United States of America, but it's not perfect. And what they did about allowing corporate America to take over the democracy completely is going to turn our country into corporate world USA, and forget it all. So I'm not going to support the Supreme Court's move, and I'm going to vote no on this measure. Our city should not be going in that direction. Destroy the democracy completely. Great. Thank you. So I'm no on that.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Rosendahl. There are no further speakers in the queue. Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes, 2 noes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, why don't we hold 13, and I'll get someone to...
Wait a minute, I'm a no.
All right, press your button. We have to revote that.
Yeah.
It's already been... Mr. Clerk, can we... Did Mr. Rosendahl show up as a yes when he meant no?
So council should go back and reconsider that item.
All right, reopen the roll on that and stay at your desk and press the button. Motion to reconsider. Motion is there. Okay. Oh, there's a motion before us to reconsider. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote. Matters before us. Okay, matters before us now. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
9 ayes, 3 noes.
All right, thank you. Next item.
Item 15, called special for cards.
All right, I do not have any cards here on 15. Let's see. There's, item 15 has no cards. Okay. If there are no, I do not have any cards written out here on item 15. Okay. We open the roll on 15, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
All right, and then I'm going to take up item 13 next, please.
And it gives me great pleasure to recognize you, Ms. Berry, for item number 13.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This won't take very long. This is just a motion that I introduced to shed light on a very complicated situation involving the FDIC that has caused the construction of the Concerto project to come to a standstill. The delayed construction and finishing Concerto has resulted in the loss of more than 250 union jobs with a payroll of $30 million. I believe it's critical for the federal and local government to work cooperatively and would like for my council colleagues to adopt the resolution included in the CLA report. Adoption of the resolution will include Concerto and the city's 2010 federal legislative program and allow the city to engage the FDIC. In this unprecedented, challenging economic time, we need to do all that we can to get people back to work, so I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. If we can open the roll, close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Due to human error, there was a card on item number 15 that was in item 22. If we can reopen that. Close the roll and tabulate the vote. And Mr. Sachs, if you'd like to come forward on item 15. Our apologies.
Thank you. Again, a lighting district. You have 5 lighting districts on your agenda today, totaling $7,072. Yet until you decide that you want the actual $20 million that was offered up by David Freeman in a meeting that was held right here in City Council chambers, I don't think you should do anything about lighting districts. I don't think you should do a darn thing about lighting districts until you get that $20 million. He offered it up. It doesn't matter. 7,000 versus 20 million. Plus, let's not forget the money found by Oster Butner. Over $300 million in wasteful spending at DWP. When you decide you want to go after that kind of funding, take care of that first, and then go after the lighting districts. But until you do that, you're just a bag of hot gas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. That'll close the public hearing for 15. If we can open the roll again on 15, close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That's approved. Next item, please.
Item 21, called special for cards.
All right, Mr. Walsh, we have your card on 21. Okay, Mr. Walsh passes on 21. That's the only card, so go ahead. If there's no members who wish to be heard on 21, please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 22, called special for cards.
Dave Newbecker is here on item number 22. You just said to answer questions if needed? Okay. Anybody wishing to ask any questions on item number 22? If not, okay, let's go ahead and prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, that is approved. Next item, please.
Item 24, called special for cards.
All right, Mr. Arnold Sachs on number 24, and then Mr. John Walsh.
Before I address item 24, could you please clarify, Mr. President, your rules here? I had a card on item number 11, but it was heard in public comment in a committee. Item number 9 was heard in committee also, yet you had public comment. So just try to get something down so that we have a way of leveling the playing field for the public. This item refers to the DNA status reports for the month of March, April, and May 2010. Yet as was noted by the LA Times regarding the DNA evidence gathered in the Grim Sleeper case, the state laws were changed in 2004, yet the county and the city failed to act for 9 months. Who was sitting on city council in 2004 that could answer any questions pertaining to that lack of activity? That would be interesting to check into. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Okay, Mr. Walsh passes on this item, so let's go ahead and prepare the roll on 24 and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 25, called special for cards.
Okay, Dr. Clyde Williams, and then John Walsh. Is Dr. Williams here? If not, Mr. Walsh, if you'd like to come forward.
Where are you going on Friday?
Vegas, remember?
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. If you have any good information, email me at us at HollywoodDems, Hollywood DEMS, @gmail.com. This concerns alley cats. You're going to fix the alley cats. I'm the old school. We call them alley cats. It's not politically correct now. They're feral cats. I don't think they care. But, of course, I'm all for animals' rights, and I know that I wouldn't want to be fixed. I'm not sure about the feral cats. I'd like to say that you're doing a very good job, and as I leave, and taking only 1 minute, I want to thank the President Garcetti for the good news that the Arizona immigration law has key parts struck down today in court, and it could take several years before it was enacted. John Walsh of Gringos Against Arizona Fascism.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz.
Yeah, I'd just point out, it's not entirely clear to me what the potential uses are for this beyond feral cats, but since the department is so tightly funded right now, and since we have a new general manager, I'd just like to suggest that we somehow don't have that department make those decisions until a new general manager is on board. So if we could give that direction as part of this item, I would make that amendment to it, or suggest that amendment to it.
All right, if there's no objection, there'll be friendly amendment. And let's go ahead and prepare the roll as amended and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
I'm sure our crack clerk got that, and it's part of the file, so that is approved. Next item, please.
Item 27 was called special by Councilmember Weezer. A substitute motion has been circulated, and there are cards on that.
Okay, we'll take the cards. Dr. Williams, I think, is still gone. Arnold Sachs, like to come forward on 27, and then John Walsh.
Oh, there he is.
Thank you. Good morning again, Arnold Sachs. This item, just the language of this item concerns me. You have the appropriation of funding for from the street furniture account, but you don't list anything for the appropriations the work to be done. And that concerns me because I believe 3 months ago you voted on a ECAP proposal, a rate increase, and in your agenda item, supposedly it said temporarily for 3 months to be reviewed in October. Yet that was wrong also. So some agenda items you have misinformation, and this agenda item you have no information. I'm not sure if I prefer the misinformation or the no information part of your agenda, but it should be clarified for the public to know what the street furniture fund would be spent on. Hopefully it won't be anybody's salary.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Okay, Mr. Walsh passes. Mr. Weezer?
Thank you, Mr. President. The substitute motion has been passed around, and to answer the public speaker, the contract documents with organizations, the information and details about what performance will be done is in there. This item essentially allows for trash cans and bins to be put on some major corridors in my district for maintenance of those trash cans, and also for pickup of bulky items in Council District 14. More information can be found if the public speaker wants to ask my office for those things.
Thank you, Mr. Weezer. So without objection, we'll have that substitute motion. And if we can open the roll, close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 28, called special for cards.
Okay, that was a card from Dr. Williams, who I think is still gone. So we'll close the public hearing. Excuse me. We didn't have a card for 28. Would you like to speak on 28? We have you up for 29. Sorry, I can't hear you. If you want to speak for 28, come forward, Mr. Walsh.
Why don't we, John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, new post out since last week, 1.5 million visitors this year. Why can't we have a generic banner announcing a street fair? If we have a generic banner, we can save a fortune. I love South Robinson. It's one of the fewest, very rare neighborhoods in LA that has very little change in the past 30 years. It hasn't gone through what the rest of us have. That's why you don't see angry people from South Robinson here, because their neighborhood looks fine. I'm just using 1 minute. I have 1 minute to go. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you very much. That'll close our public comments on 28. Please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 29, called special for cards.
Mr. Walsh, item 29.
John Walsh, HollywoodHighlands.org. Hold on, this is it. You won't see me till next week. This is not, I've controlled. I'm not an addict here. I don't have to have 3 fixes a week. Lupita Tovar, again, declared yesterday, Lupita Tovar Day. Lupita Tovar, if you want to see her, see the original, she's still alive in the late 90s, the original Dracula, she's the woman in the carriage at the beginning of the movie. And we had a wonderful day yesterday on Hollywood Boulevard, I should say Sunday. Too bad Tom LaBonge had to leave early after the cameras had been on him, or he would have seen Louis Prima Jr. and his sister do, for the first time, a Dixieland, New Orleans march on Vine Street. HollywoodHighlands.org. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Koretz.
Yeah, I would just say, even though it's a day after the fact, Lupita Tovar was very thrilled at her 100th birthday to receive a commendation and a day in her honor. One of the last surviving leads in silent films, and one of the first also to do, I believe she was the first to do a Spanish language talkie, and was the first lead actress to do one. She was absolutely thrilled. This was a wonderful day in her honor yesterday, or I should say on Saturday.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Alacon.
Yeah, Mr. Koretz knows, but did not mention that her grandsons were the writers of American Pie, and the Weitz brothers. And in fact, Chris Weitz is filming a movie in East Los Angeles. Most people don't associate him with the Latino community, but he is Latino, and he's making a movie about the Mexican experience in the East Side. In fact, I referred him to Greg Boyle, Father Greg Boyle, for background information. So the legacy continues.
Thank you, Mr. Alacon. Let's prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That item is approved. We do have a special item, number 1. If we could speak to the findings, Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, Mr. President, I was just handed this item. Since the posting of the agenda, Ms. Cherry Osmandojic, and if I could get some help on that pronunciation, was murdered in Valley Village. Immediate action is required to issue the reward in order to maintain the safety of the community. Council must first make findings pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2 before considering the substantive motion.
Okay, let's open the roll on the findings, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is before us. Mr. Krikorian?
Thank you, Mr. President. Last Saturday evening, the neighborhood of Valley Village was shocked by the brutal murder of Cherie Osman Hadzik, a 34-year-old young woman who was busily planning her upcoming wedding. And after a day of shopping for her wedding shoes and other items, returned home to her house in Valley Village, and was met there by an intruder. Her fiancé came home to see the intruder fleeing from the home and gave chase, but was unable to catch this intruder. And it was later found that Ms. Osman Hadzik had been brutally murdered with multiple stab wounds. Her home was set on fire to try to conceal the evidence of the crime, and sadly, she was pronounced dead at the scene. So the intruder is still at large, and we very much need the help of the public to try to bring any information to the police department that will lead to the conclusion of this investigation and to bring this suspect to justice. So I respectfully ask for your support of this reward motion to issue a reward in the amount of $50,000 for information leading to the arrest of the suspect in this brutal crime.
Thank you, Mr. Krikorian. Let's go ahead and prepare the roll on that reward motion and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. We'll send that forthwith. Next special item, special 2.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since posting of today's agenda, the LAPD has requested that Council offer a reward for information leading to the arrest of suspects responsible for the murder of Matthew Butcher on June 24th at 1302 West Sunset Boulevard in Echo Park. The reward is being offered because of leads drying up. Immediate action is required for the safety of the community. Council must first make findings pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2 before considering the substantive motion.
All righty. On the findings, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is now before us pursuant to Rule 23. Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. Colleagues, I rise to ask for support. We had the heart-wrenching experience of understanding this impact, and as you know, Matthew Butcher was shot and killed, and a co-worker wounded. This is a $50,000 reward to capture the individuals who committed this heinous crime, and I ask for your support.
Thank you. Let's prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
And we'll make sure to get that word out there as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Reyes. That's approved. Forthwith, please. Next order of business, please.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Those are posted and referred.
And the desk is clear.
All right. Any announcements, colleagues? Mr. Reyes?
Thank you, Council Presidents. First, I want to thank you for your support. I have some great news. A federal judge, Susan Bolton, ruled during our discussion that the controversial sections that are part of the 1070 Arizona immigration law will be put on hold until the court resolves issues that essentially impact communities in such a way where racial profiling was promoted, civil rights, human rights are being violated, and I believe the role that this council has played along with 20 other cities, many other advocates, help raise this issue to the level where now the controversial portions are going to be put on hold, and hopefully democracy and justice will prevail. Hopefully the Congress and the President will take a much more assertive role in establishing national immigration reform, but just as important, provide the environment where community-based policing can be established and reinforced, that the folks who are innocent victims folks who need witnesses can essentially feel confident they can work with the police officers. And again, I thank you for that and let you know that that significant step has been taken and that we look forward to continued effort in creating a just environment in our great country.
Thank you. Excellent news. Yes, Mr. Huizar.
Mr. President, I want to echo Mr. Rice's comments, and I think all Americans should be grateful for what occurred today. It shows our U.S. Constitution and our court system is protecting all of us from being discriminated. It was not only a victory for immigrants or Latinos, but for any group that will be held to a higher standard. It's not acceptable, and our courts are proving that today. It's a great day for all of America. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other announcements? If there are not, can I ask you please rise for adjourning motions? If I can ask everybody in council chambers to please rise. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Colleagues, I ask that we adjourn today in memory of someone that I think many of us know or knew well around these council chambers, Mr. Kenneth Kim, who passed away this week after a long illness. Kenneth served the public with honor and insight as a journalist and member of the City Hall Press Corps, writing for the New America Media, the Korea Times, and the Korea Daily. He skillfully reported in Korean and English and did so in a way that not only made him a well-respected member of the Korean community, but respected by reporters across the media spectrum, by elected officials, by business, community, and other leaders, and by his readers across Los Angeles, the nation, and the globe. Kenneth was also a powerful influence on the young reporters and others for whom he was a mentor, here in City Council and throughout the trade, passing on both tricks of the trade and life lessons alike. His email address was newspoet. That right there showcases his skill as a journalist. He got to the news, but he said it in a way that was articulate, had the most meaning with the fewest words. Kenneth was certainly a hard-nosed reporter through and through, but he was also a romantic. He was an idealist who was driven by his belief that journalists should do good in this world and that government should truly serve the people. And Kenneth was a loving and proud father for whom the sun rose and set at the feet of his children, his daughter Yuri and his son Carlton. We will certainly miss him, and he was taken way too young from this earth. May Kenneth Kim rest in peace. We'll do all members on that. Yeah. Mr. Reyes.
Yes, council members, I had the opportunity to work with Mr. Kim in many different environments. A portion of Koreatown, a larger portion we shared before redistricting. But what I truly appreciate about him is that he allowed you to give your points of view. He truly was objective. He understood the emotional side of issues, especially when it came to the whole notion of how do you interpret different cultures, how do you look at issues from different points of view, and allowed you to understand the idiosyncrasies of our great diversity. And for that, I thank him, because in many occasions he could have gone with what he heard and could have just went with he was told, but he took the time to ask for the facts, and he was objective and allowed new relations to be nurtured because of the ability to be truthful, and for that I'll always thank him.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Other adjourning motions? Mr. Parks?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask that we adjourn in memory of Joyce Matkins Sumby, who was born in Oklahoma in 1935, passed away Saturday, July the 17th. Our family relocated in Merced, California in 1941. Throughout her life, based on her mother's influence, she developed a keen interest in African American history, culture, literature, and which continued throughout her life. She's a graduate of Fresno State University with a bachelor's and elementary teaching credential. She taught the first and second grade in a combined year for 1 year in San Diego, but returned to the university to change career from teacher to librarian. She was married and has 3 sons. She received her master's degree in librarianship from the University of Southern California and was hired as LA County Public Librarian. She was an innovative organizer, gifted facilitator, and exceptional writer and researcher. She held the following positions: Compton Library Children's Librarian, Senior Librarian on the Library Service and Construction Act Grant Project, which improved library services to African American and Latino communities. Also, Audiovisual Coordinator. She's the first African American librarian to serve as a regional administrator of 10 cities and 17 branch libraries in LA County. She's a passionate leader, the first Minority Services Coordinator in the library's Affirmative Action Committee when it was established. In that position, she hired new applicants. She helped many African Americans in person from various ethnic cultures secure employment at the county library. She's a member of the New Majority Coalition, whose work resulted in California State Library Partnership for Change, a prototype now used throughout the nation. She also worked along with others in developing the UCLA African American Mentorship Program, an initiative today that continues to produce the highest number of African American library students entering the master's degree program. She has many interests and a deep passion for her family. She certainly, after 32 years of exemplary work and service with the county library, she retired. However, she continued to work in volunteerism. She's a founding member of the California Librarians Black Caucus and the Leimert Park Village Book Fair. She's survived by her two sons, Paul and James, and a host of family members. Her services will be Friday, July 30th at 4 p.m. at Angeles Funeral Home at 3875 Crenshaw Boulevard, and the repast will be immediately after at the Museum of African American Art located in the Baldwin Hills Shopping Plaza.
Thank you. Ms. Perry?
I just wanted to add to the announcement that we had yesterday regarding the passing of Dorothy E. Watson, the mother of Congresswoman Diane E. Watson, who passed away July 24th. Her funeral will be held Monday, August the 2nd at Holman United Methodist Church at 11 a.m. And the viewing will be Saturday and Sunday, July 31st and August 1st at Angeles Funeral Home at Crenshaw on 39th Street from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Mr. Reyes.
Yes, colleagues, I had mentioned, and we adjourned, and honoring Irvin R. Lai, and I want to share with you his extraordinary history. Irvin R. Lai, a revered Chinese-American community leader in Los Angeles, best known for his efforts to save the roast duck in Chinatown and ensure the proper handling of bureau remains exposed during the Metro Gold Line extension, has passed away at the age of 83. He died July 16th at Kaiser Permanente West Los Angeles Medical Center from complications of pneumonia. Born in 1927 on a farm outside Locke, Lai was a third-generation Chinese-American who moved to Los Angeles in his teens, served in the U.S. military during World War II and the Korean War, went to college on the GI Bill, and eventually worked in the family's restaurant, refrigeration, and construction business. But his heart and all his spare time were devoted in serving the community, a virtue he acquired from his mother, Effie Lai, a volunteer social worker who helped new immigrants from China adapt to life in California's old frontier. Lai took on numerous leadership positions, including national president of the Chinese American Citizens Alliance, head of the Chinese Chamber of Commerce of Los Angeles, commissioner of the Asian American Education Commission, and director of the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association. One of Lai's proudest accomplishments was the Chinese Roast Duck Bill of 1982. Chinese restaurateurs were forced to toss their roast Peking ducks because the preparation involves hanging and drying the meat at room temperature for several hours, a tradition that violated health codes. When officials threatened to remove the Chinese delicacy from LA's Chinese restaurants, Lai spearheaded the effort to prove them wrong. His impassioned testimony before the state legislature helped win the health code exemption that ensured the longevity of the popular dish in America. Lai is survived by a son, Lawrence, 5 daughters, Arlene Lowe, Corinne Gill, Irene Zhang, Kathleen Lee, Pauline Yao, a brother, Colin, a sister, Mildred Wong, 12 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. His wife, Jessie, passed away in 1984. A viewing will be held tonight at 7 p.m. at Forest Lawn, Memorial Park, 1712 South Glendale Avenue in Glendale. The funeral will be at 11 a.m. Thursday at the Alhambra True Light Presbyterian Church, 20 West Commonwealth Avenue, Alhambra. Thank you, colleagues. Yes,
we'll get Mr. Reyes and Ms. Perry on that. Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in memory of Art Bogos, and I want to thank my colleagues for standing as well, who was born on August 31st, 1958 at Santa Monica Hospital. He passed away July 23rd, so he was almost 52. He was a big Laker and Dodger fan, so much so that he was present at almost every opening day at Dodger Stadium, and his recount of the Laker game sounded like Chick Hearn. Art was also an outdoorsman who enjoyed fishing, camping, and jet skiing. My nephew, Chris Rosendahl, and one of his best friends, Kenny Hamilton, a good friend of mine, would go on these trips. He made trips to the Eastern Sierras 2 or 3 times a year. He always seemed to be arranging a camping or ski trip, and everyone was always invited to come along. Art was also an energetic union leader. He represented the State Employees Trade Council as the shop steward at UCLA's Housing and Hospitality Maintenance Department. In fact, on August the 7th, when he'll be interred, the UCLA will have all of its flags at half-mast. He was loved by everyone. He touched everyone in his role as a worker and also a union leader. He had a way about him that put people at ease. He was a diplomat when it came to dealing with issues between management and union members in his work area. As a union leader, Art rarely had to rely on the grievance process. Rather, he would figure out ways to get everyone to compromise. Art was a bulldog when he needed to be. If there was an issue he was passionate about, he would gather his shopmates and get to the bottom of it and make sure everyone understood what was going on. If there was an important meeting or demonstration, Art would make sure that every available union member, and even some non-union members, would participate. A fellow union member said, quote, "If you did not like Art, there must be something wrong with you." Art was the man you would want in your corner, covering your back and making sure no harm would come to you. He cared about others more than he cared about himself, end of quote. Art is survived by his girlfriend, Ellie, of 13 years, parents Art Burgos Sr. and Rosemary, 2 brothers, Mike and Steve, 2 sisters, Antoinette and Arlene, and his stepbrother, Scott. Services are scheduled at the Gates Kinley and Gates Smith Mortuary at 4220 South Sepulveda Boulevard in Culver City at 10:30 a.m. on Saturday, August 7th. The burial at Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City would follow. I knew Art. He was a good man. He was a giver. He never said no, and he was there for everybody. And it was just a sudden moment. In fact, my nephew and Kenny were going fishing, and he was supposed to come along, and he didn't show. And when he got back, they found out that he had a massive heart attack and died. May he rest in peace.
Thank you. If there's no other adjourning motions, Mr. Clerk, will you please call the roll? We'll next be in session this Friday, 2 days from now, here in the John Farrell Council Chambers. Have a great day. This meeting of the City Council is adjourned. Courage.